That means these four stages come out as the pervasion or the existence of the Lord as I am in space as zero. The consciousness I am is numerically 1. Space is numerically a 0 according to the scriptures. It is called geometrically a globe and numerically a 0. And the whole thing is expressed like this. In the first stage, it comes as differentiation. In the second stage, it comes as the couple or the husband and wife. That is power and consciousness. In the third stage, as the observer, the object of observation and the process of observation. That is called the subject, object and predicate of the grammar. And in the fourth stage, as the objective universe. These are only the alphabet that are presented to us to trace back into what they want to teach us. There should be some alphabet. If I want to learn English, there is English alphabet. If I want to learn Sanskrit, there should be Sanskrit alphabet. If I want to learn Tibetan or French, I should know the alphabet. Similarly, if we want to learn that which is there on the background, we should have some alphabet to trace back. So this works as our alphabet to trace back. That's why they give the pictorial representation, the representation through points, through numbers, through shapes, through colors, etc. This is the alphabet of the ancients, because they enable a student to follow what they say through these emblems. That's why these are called the symbols for meditation. Only through meditating these symbols, you will be able to comprehend what they mean in those stanzas. Because meaning of the sentence is only one of the 6 keys. It's not enough if we pursue with the intellectual aspect of it. So they clear off the various layers that exist between ourselves and what they say. So we will be able to comprehend only by trying to think of these symbols and try to recollect these symbols again and again. For example, if we begin to meditate these symbols about 2 minutes in the day or just look at them repeatedly, then the mind undergoes transformations that are required to comprehend and understand what they mean in the stanzas. So this is what exactly Pythagoras taught us as the Pythagorean decad. Is subject, object and predicate, and the observer different from these 3. Here observer, observation and observed, these are the 3. And suppose there is another fellow, he is also an observer. When I am here, I have the window and myself and my idea of the window. But when you are here, again you are there as the 4th fellow. Yes. The total objectivity includes the 4th one also. That is 2 fellows existing separately. Yes. It is the first externalization of himself as creation, as the idea of creation. Just
That fifth stage is sustainable.
Yes, it can be meditated upon only by uttering sound and listening to it. Om. No other way. Because we are asked to utter Om and listen to it only to know the 4 stages. Just wait, just wait. I should not cause confusion by producing everything immediately. Because it is a very subtle field where everything is ourselves when we enter into it. It is a field of light where we are dazzled. So let us proceed a bit carefully. Every bit of it is dazzling because we are that. That's the danger. If that is something else, we can know it easily. Every step we are itself, and there is every danger of ourselves losing into it. We may be lost in it at every step. That's what we call confusion. Let us avoid it. So I will present one after one and the other. I don't think so. Because confusion is only a confusion when used in English. Now, we have the 10 digits in 4 stages here. That's why space and time produces creation only in these terms, which is highly difficult to comprehend. I will give you only one example. If you take these numbers, this forms the base of the greater ages of creation. For example, so many lunar years on earth is called Kali Yuga. This is called Kali or unit, 1 unit. 2 such units form the previous Yuga, Dwapara Yuga. 3 such units form Treta Yuga. 4 such units they form Krita Yuga or the Satya Yuga. In total we have 10 units in all. So once again, if you add one more 0 to this, 4th 0, it is the total of all the 4 yugas. It is called the Mahayuga or the great age. It forms the base number for the calculation of the great ages of creation. This is called great age, Mahayuga. 72 times the great age is called the span of 1 Manu. It is called Manvantara. 14 Manvantaras form 1 day of creator. Yes. Yes. And another 14 Manvantaras form the night of Brahma, night of the creator. Like this, the calculations go on, but let us stop here because you will find all these calculations given clearly worked out on a single page in the secret doctrine and also in the treatise on the cosmic fire on the 4th or 5th page. Because they are the numbers worked out by the ancients and copied from person to person through thousands and thousands of years. They are constants. So, here is a formula in this stanza which gives us the key to all these calculations of the scriptures. We go to the 4th stanza now. It's second line. Tripad urdhva udait purushah. पादोस्येहा भवात् पुनः ततो विश्वज्ञक्रामत शासनानशने अभि. Divide like this. Tripad, Urdhva, Udait, Purushaha. Here you have to split up this one like this. Padaha, Asya plus Iha. Like this. Padaha, Asya, Iha. If you split up, you will have three words. Bhavat is one word. Punaha is one word. This becomes Tataha when divided. Tato becomes Tataha. Vishwak Nyakramat. Sashana Anashane. There will be another A here. Then Abhi. Now we will go to the meaning. Word meaning. Tripad, 3/4. Urdhva, upwards. Udait, born. Purushaha, the cosmic person. Padaha, 1/4. Padaha means 1/4. The word Asya means of him. The word Iha means here. The word Bhavat means became. Bhavat means became. Punaha means again. Here we have Tataha means then and also afterwards. Next, Vishwak, in all directions. Vishwak means in all directions. Nyakramatu, pervaded or also occupied. Pervaded or occupied. Sasana means eating. Anashana means non-eating. Abhi means towards. Towards. Let us have the translation of the verse. The Purusha who pervades the remaining 3/4 has sprouted in upward direction, while the remaining 1/4 stood as the remaining 1/4 stood as this world which we know, as this world which we know. From it he began to pervade in all directions, from the organic to the inorganic, organic to the inorganic, and the inorganic to the organic. That's it. So, if we bring these two words, eating and non-eating, into our 20th century language, they should be translated as the organic beings and inorganic beings. That is, those that eat and those that do not eat. While it is described that the Purusha who was in the other three sectors, that is before creation or before the objective tangible creation, he travelled upwards. He springs up, it is described here. Who pervades the first, second and third stages, he sprouts up in the upward direction. And here there is no sprouting, only he exists. That means from the subjective levels, the fellow comes to objectivity. The Purusha travels to objectivity from the subjective levels in the three stages. And in the fourth stage, where after he has come to the objectivity, there is no going up. He exists as the objective world and the beings to each other. That means there are no subsequent stages of becoming to this creation after it reached the objectivity. This world we see around us has no future stages. It exists because it is the surface of everything. The everything is inside making this world. When the making is complete, we have this surface which we call this world, and there is no further surface for it. You see, when there is water, milk and coffee powder, there is something to do. When we have prepared coffee, there is nothing to prepare. It's finished. We have to use it, that's all. So, on the objective plane, the work is complete. There is no betterment or something like that. We have to better ourselves only from the subjective planes, and we have to work out the perfection on the objective plane. The objective plane is only to work out. There is nothing to make it better. The perfection we reach in the subsequent planes, that is the subjective planes, should manifest on the objective plane as perfection. Perfection should be reached in the other planes, whereas perfection should be worked out and it cannot make it better. So the Creator also, he has the stages of working out in all the other three states of creation. But when solar systems are worked out and when the physical universe is there, it exists and then it recedes back. There is nothing to go further. You know how in the secret doctrine the stages are given. The planets come to the physical stage as the fifth stage. The solar systems and planets, they reach the fifth stage or the physical stage in which we are, and then they recede into the previous stages. There is no further going into the next stage. I think those who have studied the secret doctrine, they remember the explanation of this figure. This is the physical stage. These are the previous stages. So, in the previous 1, 2, 3 stages, there is what is called the making of the universe. In the fourth stage or in the fifth stage of the globes, it is finished. and it has to recede on. So the material plane has no future. It is the ultimate of the previous planes. You will find this figure and its explanation in the secret doctrine. So here it is stated that after the material plane or the objective plane is reached, it is the ultimate of the whole creation and there is no future to it except to recede back. So all the other three stages, they sprout up into the fourth stage. They go up, but in the fourth stage it exists in the fourth stage, that's all, as the surface of creation. That's why it is said the Purusha who pervaded the remaining 3/4 has sprouted in the upward direction, while the remaining 1/4 stood as this world which we know. That is what it means. And then from it, that is here, there is no upward direction. He began to pervade in all directions. That means space, time and all these things began to exist as he came to this stage. Before that, there was no space and time separated. Both were one. Only when there is a being separated, there can be a concept of space and a concept of time separated. Otherwise, both of them were one. Imagine yourself existing in space and nothing more exists. Imagine yourself traveling in it. Then there is no difference between traveling in space and traveling in time, because no time exists. You will be just going around in space because there is no falling upon any planet. You don't fall down, but you will be going around, you will be a particle. If there is a particle in space, the background can be called space or time, there is no difference. If there are two particles, then there is the differentiation between space and time. If there is only one particle of consciousness in space, the background is either space or time. If there is a second particle, there is the birth of relativity, and hence the x-axis and the y-axis separate from each other. So there is space and there is time. The background is neither space nor time, but the original of both. That is what he means here. As the creator reaches the fourth stage, there is the birth of all directions. That means above, below, before, behind, like this. There are directions coming out as concepts. All this is understood as space, and then time separates. Time. Also there is what is called light and darkness. Previously there was only light, therefore it was not light, it was consciousness. Only when there is darkness, light can be called light. So like this, he expanded into all directions. The Purusha became space, became time, became the directions, that is above, below, etc. Became darkness, became light, he became night, day, etc., etc. So he multiplied in, he expanded in all directions, that is what he says. and he began to pervade in all directions again, and when he came to this earth plane, that is called material plane, finally he came to the material plane, and there is the birth of what we call our earth. And when he came to this earth, not as a person who comes from other planets, but as the indweller of the atoms of this earth. When he came to this earth, he came in the form of eating and non-eating fellow, two forms. That means organic and inorganic. For example, let us take him in the form of calcium. Calcium. He is there as the calcium deposits of the earth, and he enters into the body of a living being to form the bones. In the bones he is there as the calcium of the organic. So here he is an eating fellow. He wants food. Here he is a non-eating fellow. He doesn't want food. Whenever there is the birth of a body, this fellow is called to duty, to serve as the calcium of the bones. And when there is the death, then the fellow is sent back. The body decomposes into its original elements. So the fellow exists in two forms, traveling from one form to the other when a body takes birth, and from the other form to the original when the body dies. So the fellow began to exist in bodies. Yes, even in the plant kingdom, the same minerals. Eating. Yes. Plant, mineral and human eating. Plant, animal and human kingdoms are eating kingdoms, organic. Mineral and Deva kingdoms, non-eating. We have the following kingdoms on earth. Plant kingdom, evolving into animal kingdom, evolving into human kingdom, starting from mineral kingdom. Is it not? And starting from Deva kingdom. Like this, the cycle goes. I told you, Deva and the mineral kingdoms are non-eating kingdoms. We, the humans, we are eating. We are eating plants, animals, and the minerals, and also the Devas. Sometimes the humans also, in the name of war, etc., and murder and crime. So these are the organic kingdoms: plant kingdom, animal kingdom and human kingdom. They want bodies to live in. Therefore, the fellow enters from the non-eating to the eating kingdom to manufacture bodies. Then the fellows live in the bodies and eat. Then they are asked to quit. And the bodies are decomposed and the fellows are sent home for vacation. And this cycle is what we call. So, about this, there are many hymns in Rig Veda, as many as 24, called the Vishwe Deva hymns, that is the hymns to universal devas, that is those who manufacture the universe. This is for this reason every year water goes up from earth and forms into clouds, and water comes down from clouds in the form of rain and fog to make the seeds germinate. Similarly, the same thing happens in the bodies of the humans and animals also, but the rain is in the form of the reproductive fluids, the seminal fluid, etc. The same thing happens. The seed germinates. So these fellows, they have to travel like this. Therefore, there is the cycle of waters on this earth. And there are some hymns that describe the cycle of waters and what happens in the cycle of waters in Rig Veda. These are all interlinked. The whole thing, the totality, is expressed as a grand wheel rotating with all these things as parts of it. Then only we can understand the total. We are now working out the nuts and bolts and the little instruments in the wheel. We should have an idea of the total grand wheel. In the Bhagavad Gita it is mentioned that the great wheel is rotating. And in the hymns, there are hymns in Rig Veda that describe the grand wheel, that is the unity of everything. That is called the wheel, where there is the great bird at the center. So there are hymns dedicated to the great bird in the Rig Veda. They give us the total unity of the rotationary wheel. Until we have an idea of the rotationary wheel, we cannot have the total understanding. For example, the present creator and his 4 stages are described in the wheel, and the 4-armed God is described, and the 4-faced creator is described, and his wife going around is described. And in the same wheel, the 3-faced fellow is described, and in the same wheel, the 5-faced fellow is described. Like this, the numbers 1 to 9 are described, how they are rotating on the wheel, how the whole thing fits in. These things can be found in the hymns dedicated to the bird, called the bird of creation, the bird of indweller of creation.